Hey gang, David Henry from Inspired Tennis. I hope you're doing well. Hey, listen, I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight. Normally I'm over this side behind my stringing machine talking to you there, but tonight I'm in front of this whiteboard. I just put up this whiteboard in my stringing room because I'm going to do some different type of videos coming up tonight and then coming up that are, I'll be doing maybe some drawing and some diagramming in order to explain some things. Now, I'm still going to be standing behind my stringing machine from time to time, holding up samples of strings and doing string reviews and talking about stringing techniques and stringing tools and all that stuff. But I'm also going to add this type of video into the mix and go from there, okay? And tonight, what I want to talk about is tennis string gauge. Okay, and gauge is the thickness or the thinness of the string. And you might be thinking, well, hey David, I already know all about string gauge. It's a pretty basic, simple concept, okay? And if that's the case, that's cool. Feel free to click off this video and then check back with me on another one later that might be more relevant to you. But you may be surprised at a lot of the questions I get. I do get questions from time to time about string gauge where people ask me, maybe they're new to tennis and they're saying, hey, I was looking at some string and I saw this number by the name, what does that mean when I see Prince Synthetic Gut 16 or Technofiber X1 Biphase 17, what does that number mean? So, a lot of people don't know, and I'd like to explain it, and maybe if you know some things about gauge, you'll watch this anyway and still pick up a couple of pieces of information that you didn't know. Okay, so I'm gonna get into that and talk about it. Hope I've got the good camera angle. This is the first time I've kind of done this, so hopefully that this shows up okay and we can work through it. But I have gauge written up here, okay? And these are the numbers that you tend to see in the US. It's more of a number like a 15 or a 16 or a 17 or an 18. That's the type of gauge number that you'll see on a lot of packaging, string packages in the US, and you'll hear people refer to, hey, what's the gauge of your string? Oh, it's a 16 gauge, or oh, it's a 17 gauge, okay? But then there's also for here in the US and then also other parts of the world is mm, which is the millimeters, okay, which is the actual millimeters of the thickness of the string. And you can see like 1.41 or 1.34, okay, so that's the actual measurement of the string. And I've got some packages here, some sets. Hopefully you can see. I'll walk up here. This is a set of Technofiber black code, and you can see it's got the 1.24, and then it's also got gauge 17 prominently written right there on the package, so it's kind of covering both. I've got this set of Gamma TNT Touch 16, and you can see here in the big print it focuses on the 16 gauge. Now up here it does have the 16, and then it also has the 1.32 mm, so it has both. And then you can see the Luxilon, which is a little different, has the 127 gauge there, 127 thickness of the string, and doesn't have anywhere on the front, it doesn't have more of the common number like the 15, 16, or 17, but it does on the back. You probably can't see this, so I won't even try, but it does say US 16 there, okay? So you'll see both, and you'll hear people talk about both, but more commonly in the US, it will be one of these numbers. Now, what do they mean? Okay, so you've got 15, which is the thickest, and I'll get into that in a little bit more in a second, which equates to like 1.41 to 1.49 in the measurement. Then, as these numbers get bigger, the actual gauge gets thinner, okay? So 15 gauge string is thicker than a 16 gauge string. A 16 gauge string is thicker than a 17, and so on and so forth. You have here 15L and 16L. What that L means, you can think of that L as 1/2 or 0.5. So basically this is 15.5. This is 16.5. So 15.5 is a little higher number, which means it's a little thinner than a 15, it's a little thicker than a 16. It's kind of right in between, okay? Now, and then these measurements of gauge, these are the guidelines. The Tennis Industry Association, TIA, has the guidelines for gauge, and these are their guidelines, but they're just that. They're kind of guidelines. I mean, one manufacturer might make a 16 gauge that's 1.25 or 1.26 kind of on this end of the range. Another one might make it 1.34. And then of course there's things like variances in the manufacturing process where not every string is going to be the exact same thickness, but it will be close and it will kind of be in this range. So it's just a real good kind of set of guidelines to think about, okay? And then what you'll see, I mean, there are other gauges. There are 14, 13, there are 19, but these are the most common that you'll see in tennis, 15 through 18. And then even within this range of common gauges that you'll see in tennis, you can even say that kind of this 16 to 17 gauge area, that's really the most common. I mean, you'll find most strings probably in 16 and 17 gauges. You will see 18s, you will see 15Ls and 15s, you will see the others, but most common will fall into that area, okay? And I'm going to move over to this side. As I was kind of saying earlier, the lower the number, the thicker it is, the higher the number, the thinner it is. So 15 gauge is the thickest, and then it gets thinner as you go down, okay? Then durability comes into play. 15 is the thickest, so it's also the most durable. And then as you move down here to the other gauges, 16, 17, 18 gauge, it's least durable down here at 18. So you lose durability because the string is getting thinner, okay? So think about it. You've got a main string and a cross string that intersected multiple points throughout the racket, okay? Multiple intersections and on the string bed. And as you play, especially if you use a lot of spin, those strings move and there start to be notches formed at those intersections, okay? The more you play, the more the string moves, the deeper those notches get as the strings kind of dig in, okay? Well, eventually that notch is going to get so deep to the point where the string will be so thin that it will break. So it really makes sense that the thicker string, it just has more ability to deal with the notching a longer time period before it breaks, okay? So that's why thicker strings, 15 gauge is the most durable, 18 gauge least durable, and a range in between. Then, in general, as a guideline, 15 gauge, which is the thickest and most durable, but it is the least powerful and the least has the least ability to produce spin. So all things being equal, a thinner string is more powerful and produces more spin than a thinner string, okay? So that's it for tonight as far as the gauge goes. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Comment on my blog at www.inspired-tennis.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, send me a message, leave me a comment, send me an email. However you want to get in touch with me, if you have any questions, please do. Always happy to answer them. Hopefully you learned something new tonight related to string gauge, and we'll go from there. Thanks for checking in.